Hi, I'm Jo Bailey.
And I'm Mike Hammond.
Stay tuned for all the showbiz stories from here and around the world.
You're watching Fox Entertainment News for Tuesday, June 25, 1996.
Tonight, Scully and Mulder may be out there, but X-Files star Gillian Anderson is here as our special studio guest. Star of the X-Files, Gillian Anderson and her body double Bonnie from the spooky series made the party in Sydney last night to celebrate 21 years of Rocky Horror. Gillian's been a fan since high school. She mingled with the general public and soapy stars from Home and Away, The Gladiators and cast members from the original Australian stage production.
So there was a theater in Grand Rapids, Michigan where you went, you could bring in your own drinks, you just go to the theater and there was a slasher playing. You all go dressed up in like stuff.
And Gillian will be with Mike as our special guest in the studio right after the news. It seems
To fans of the hit American series The X-Files, this lady needs no introduction. Her alter ego, FBI agent Dana Scully, has become one of the most watched characters on television around the world. Opposite Special Agent Fox Mulder, played by David Duchovny, Gillian Anderson has been pushed to international stardom in the series that investigates unsolved cases, many of which include alien abduction and involvement of the paranormal. Now, Gillian is currently in Australia to talk about the X-Files, and she joins us now live in the studio. Welcome to Fox Entertainment News and welcome to Australia.
Thank you.
I don't know where to start with you. I mean, perhaps you'd like to suggest a question that you haven't been asked that you'd like to start off with. I mean, it must be hard, is it?
It is
going along from place to place.
Well, it's hard answering the same questions over and over again as if I'm hearing them for the first time, you know, and making them interesting or changing them a little bit, but remaining within the realm of truth, so that I'm not saying the same thing over and over again.
So, at what point can you be Gillian, or at what point do you have to start acting and become Dana and sort of act out the role when you're being interviewed?
I don't really act out the role of Dana, but I think that I have a tendency to be short and clippy with my answers if they if I don't see them going anywhere.
Am I being warned?
No.
Look, there's one thing I wanted to ask was about the nose ring, and excuse me for staring, but I can't see what side it was in.
It was on my left side.
So that answers a big question, because I've sort of thought about if you get an ear pierced or your nose pierced or...
It does heal up. It actually had gotten a little... not in fact... Do you want me to tell you the story?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Well, when I went, I got it done in London, and I had to leave before they could actually put change the stud to a hoop.
Yeah.
And so they did it anyway. And
they probably put in cheap metal too.
So, yeah.
It's not the purity of the gold or whatever.
When he pierced my nose, he actually like punched it in just with his finger. He didn't use a gun. He just like pressed it in. It was that easy, and it didn't actually hurt. But
I was going to ask if it hurt.
No, it didn't. I got a little dizzy, but it didn't hurt.
You were a bit of a punk, is that right?
Yeah,
you were a punk?
Yeah.
Well, what were you into, the punk scene, the music, or?
No. I've just heard so much about this that you know.
Well, I've heard about it too. That's why I'm asking you directly to find out what it's all about. Yeah.
It was just a stage that I went through, like everybody goes through a stage.
So the X-Files came along. How did it come along?
To me, in terms of the script,
Yeah,
well, I was out of work in Los Angeles for almost a year, and
it's a part of being an actor.
I know. But and this script came along, and I wasn't actually in the habit of auditioning for television shows. I wasn't a big fan of television at the time, and it's grown tremendously since that point. And I think in general there's a lot more respect for TV now, especially in the States. And I mean, not especially, I'm sure there's more respect for Australian TV.
I know what you mean, but it's that
you know
film and theatre versus TV thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I was quite snobbish about it, I think, for a long time. And then the script came along for a series, and I had no idea really what that meant in terms of doing a series or how often series were actually picked up to go or not.
5 shows. Do I get 2 weeks' work out of this?
Yeah,
or,
I had no clue. I had no clue, and I certainly had no clue that I'd be signing away what may be 7 years of my life. You know.
Does it feel like you've signed away 7 years of your life?
In a way, it does, yeah, but in a good way. I mean, I'm very happy to be in the situation that I'm in and to be working with the people and the character that I'm working with. But But it does, it takes out a huge chunk, and depending on which perspective you look at it, it's either a good 7 years of work, or it's 7 wasted years, you know, where you could have been doing something else. So
there's that actor's dilemma again. It's like, well, do I take this gig and I'm guaranteed of income and a job? Or, you know,
exactly.
I mean, I suppose when you were starting out, because this was a big role for you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Going on to the X-Files. Was that a sort of a consideration? It's like, well, you know, I'm sort of a new person on the block, you know, I'll go and give it everything I've got and see how it works out?
Basically, yes, but at the same time, my perspective wasn't that giving everything that I have would end up being that long. I mean, Chris Carter is our executive producer, and his perspective is that, you know, it's a very short amount of years in a lifetime, you know. But then when I think about the fact that I started when I was 24, and I may end up finishing when I'm 32.
Of what your life is, how old you are at the time.
Yeah, it's very old.
We're about halfway through. So I'm sure that the character has changed a lot, as you have. But let's have a look a little bit here at your alter ego in action.
Oh boy.
Dana Scully. Up there, what's the matter? You're looking away from the monitor. Why is that? Do you not like looking at yourself back, or?
I can't watch previous episodes. I'm sorry, I'm turning red. No,
I know a lot of people who they don't like hearing their own voice back when it's recorded, and a lot of actors don't like watching
my voice.
So you don't rush home and watch it when it's on air?
I don't mind watching a new one when it's on air, because I'm excited to see what we've done and how it turned out, and to learn from mistakes and to learn from good performances or whatever. But I cannot watch previous
right at the very
episodes.
start.
Yeah,
that was like, I think, from series 1. Was it, or series 2?
Yeah, it was series 1.
Series 1. So how has the character developed then? Because I notice in the current series, there's a lot more of the sexual tension between your character and Fox Mulder. I think there's a little bit of aggro there in some of the episodes too.
Yeah, there is. I think in the 3rd season, which I don't think you've seen yet in Australia, everything kind of comes together. I think in the 3rd, as you call, series, everyone's just much sharper, and the scripts are better, and it's all kind of come together in the 3rd series.
So I take it that you feel a lot more comfortable and confident both with your acting and with the character as the show's progressing.
Yes,
so that's a good thing.
And I think she's gotten stronger too. You know, she's not as green as she used to be, which is a good thing. You know, but still, it's all coming together.
So you signed for the 7 years, so I guess we're guaranteed of seeing you as it stands at the moment for until the contract runs through.
3 more years. Yep.
Well, thanks for being with us, Gillian.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
It's great. It's been a real pleasure meeting you. I was going to show you some of the stuff that they've got on you on the internet. But we'll save that for another time.
Yeah, I think I'll pass.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Well, you can catch Gillian on the X-Files. Of course, it airs Sunday nights at 8:30 right here on Fox. And then for 1 week, starting on the 1st of July, we'll have a series of 1-hour specials. And still...
It's the same question that everybody asks about the X-Files. What makes something a cult success? And, you know, usually when things are odd and off the wall and something that is kind of pushed into the underground, some people just kind of take it under their wings and turn it around. And that's so, I mean, it's just such a wacky film, but it's so good at the same time. I mean, Tim Curry is amazing. He's truly amazing. He's so present throughout the whole film.
From the Dorkish Brads to the...
Good evening, I'm Mike Hammond.
And I'm Jo Bailey, and welcome to this special edition of Fox Entertainment News.
X marks the spot as we spend the next half hour investigating the cult phenomenon of the X-Files through a close encounter with its star, Gillian Anderson.
On tonight's show, Files go to extremes. Crowds of 15,000 cram into shopping centres for a glimpse and maybe a fleeting moment with Gillian.
We uncover another side to the sceptical, scientific and sensible Scully.
I didn't really feel like it was naked until somebody pointed out to me that I was naked. I went, oh yeah, I guess I was naked.
And romance on the set of The X-Files.
It was just like any other, you know, just two people
Boy meets
connecting
girl, hit it
and-
off.
Exactly. More or less.
When the Fox network premiered The X-Files in September of 1993, it was a low-key affair. But one season down the paranormal track, they had an unprecedented hit on their hands.
The eerie exploits of Special Agents Mulder and Scully both capture and feed the imagination of fans worldwide, and critics hail the supernatural series as one of the best dramas of the decade. Fans of this spooky show can't get enough of the series or its stars. In Australia, to launch The X-Files on Foxtel and its video release through 20th Century Fox Home Video, Gillian Anderson comes face to face with an X-Files frenzy.
Gillian Anderson, welcome to Brisbane. How do you cope with this sort of stuff?
It's unbelievable. I'm completely shocked. Completely shocked.
15,000 fans and one pair of underpants turned out for her first shopping centre appearance. Clearly an experience even the unflappable Scully would have found overwhelming.
So which one of yours were actually sleeping outside last night?
Another city and another legion of loyal fans. But before facing the 10,000 strong throng, a quiet moment with 6 lucky competition winners.
Hello. You're so small in real life. Because I'm short.
Of the thousands desperate for a glimpse of their role model, 80 hysterical fans missed the magic moment being treated for hysteria, hyperventilation and heat exhaustion.
Why are you crying? I can't believe it. I've probably seen it before. I shook her hand.
She's a lot smaller than I thought she was, but she's very, very attractive and great smile and great eyes. I mean, wow. I mean, I've been dreaming about this for 2 whole weeks. Couldn't get to sleep last night. I couldn't get to sleep. I woke up early. I got here. And just here, just see her. She's beautiful. I can't believe it. Wow, pinch me now. I'm dreaming.
Actor in an off-Broadway play. How was the move across onto the X-Files? Because theatre people kind of look down their noses at TV.
Sure, I did too, I have to say, for a long time, yeah. No, I did. I was very snobby about television. Well, until about 5 years ago, the quality of television in America wasn't very good. It was a lot of sitcoms, a lot of not very interesting hour dramas. I think actually what happened was somewhat of a repression hit the economy, and so the movie production slowed down a great deal, and as a result it was harder for actors to get jobs, and so a lot of film actors went over to television, and then it became okay. It became okay to be on television and be a movie actor, and now it's becoming okay to be a television actor originally and move up to movies, so that there's more of a crossover now.
Going for screen tests and roll calls in the early days.
Well, I've always been very lucky, because I've managed to find myself in the right place at the right time, and things have actually happened very fast for me from the beginning. It seemed at the time to be incredibly slow, but even that play that I did in New York, I was only there for a couple of months, which felt like ages because I was waitressing and schlepping, but the
as you have to.
As you have to. But I've been lucky in that I've always been handed good scripts, you know, and gone in for lead characters, and I don't know why, but I have, and I've just taken advantage of that and taken it for granted at the same time. This just came through. It's a posthumous medical exam of the woman's body.
Being in the right place at the right time now means being in Vancouver, on set 16 hours a day, 5 days a week. And if that's not demanding enough, Gillian's on the lookout for other projects.
I was looking for something this hiatus, and there were some really good projects that I was interested in, and it looked like I was going to be doing for a while. And then either the timing was wrong, or it got postponed, or in a couple instances I ended up being too young, you know. So it was just nothing quite worked out.
There's been some talk of an X-Files feature film as well.
There is. I'm not sure when they're going to shoot that. I'm looking at some other projects for next hiatus, and that I'm really interested in doing. And I think all of us would be willing to do an X-Files feature. I just don't know when exactly that's going to take place.
But until the X-Files gets even larger than life on the big screen, there's plenty of unexplained mysteries for fans to unravel.
What exactly did you find? It would have to be, by definition, extraterrestrial. I'm in danger, Fox.
What do you mean?
We've been contacted.
You really believe in this stuff, Agent Mulder?
Is that a problem?
Stay with us, because after the break we'll take a look at what happens behind the scenes making the hippest, scariest and most talked about show on television, The X-Files.
I saw him this morning down by the river. He was eating a fish.
He knows between show snacks will ruin his appetite.
I could be mistaken. Maybe it's another bald-headed, jigsaw puzzle tattooed naked guy I saw.
Federal agent! Scully!
Strange as it may seem, surfs up on the dark and disturbing X-Files. Gillian Anderson's site is one of the most popular on the internet. Each month, fans hit her homepage hundreds of thousands of times. Then, of course, there's the special interest groups for the special agent. The IDDGG, that's the Intellectually Drop-Dead Gorgeous group, and the GATB, the Gillian Anderson Testosterone Brigade.
She's the thinking man's centerfold, I think. She's smart as in her character. It's Scully. She's intelligent. She's got a certain character about her, a certain wit about her, and she comes across as a very sort of personable person. And she's attractive without being a supermodel attractive. She's just a normal, everyday attractive. And there's something about her eyes as well that is sensational.
She's smart.
Yeah,
she's a real person.
She's intelligent, incredibly intelligent. She's a real person. She's got more depth to her than most women on screen. And she's obviously not ugly either, but that's not really it. It's not really her looks that get me. It's just, it's more of actually a female character on TV who does have a personality and is intelligent, incredibly strong, not just some bimbo standing here going, "You stole my boyfriend." You bitch. Yeah.
Mulder!
Golly, get that gun off!
Mulder, you have to understand!
Put it down!
You put it down first!
Golly!
Mulder, you may not be who you are.
It plays the role so well. Just, never steps out for a second. You can always... It's always Scully. It's not, Gillian playing Scully.
There's absolutely nothing Filophiles don't want to know about Gillian and her alter ego Dana Scully. Even old college photos were unearthed by a school friend and posted on the World Wide Web. They're bites of information fans can't wait to get a taste of. You know, you're one of the most popular people on the internet. I was looking through there, I can get all sorts of stuff about you. I'll get photos of you from your class yearbook.
Oh, I can't believe, and I actually know the girl that put this in there, and I just can't believe that somebody would do that. It's just so silly. It's like, why? What do you get out of it?
I suppose people want to know a lot about you.
Stupid pictures of me.
Although old college photos are enough to make Gillian cringe, she's immensely proud of the high production values on the X-Files.
For main unit shooting, which is the main cameras and crew with actors, it takes about 8 days. And then there's about an additional 3 or 4 days of second unit camera work and inserts and and everything else even before it goes to post-production. So it takes a good 2-3 weeks to put together
The driving force behind The X-Files is creator and executive producer Chris Carter.
I was inspired by a show that was on when I was a kid called The Night Stalker, and I loved that show. It scared the hell out of me. And 25 years later, I had, I guess, earned the privilege of being asked what I would like to do, because I was in the same business, to come up with a TV show. And I said I wanted to come up with something that was scary as The Night Stalker, and The X-Files came out of that.
We're rolling!
What's happening?
The X-Files is 2 FBI agents investigating paranormal phenomena, something that the FBI has told me that isn't done, but there are no X-Files as far as the FBI is concerned. Everyone likes to be scared, and I think that a lot of people are scared by the same thing. So I think that you know, what scares us is universal.
Well, this is my natural color.
You'd suspect the life of a makeup person on a top-rating show would be glamorous. Not on the set of The X-Files, where makeup artists Fern Levin and Toby Lindeler are hard at work creating pretty gruesome characters.
The best job. Every week there's something new and interesting to do.
We work like 16 to 18 hours a day at the shop. You know, kind of get blown away each time. And thank God, because yeah, it is a really good show. I'm glad to be a part of that.
It's about a virus, and the manifestation of the virus is a huge zit. So it's like if the zit popped on you, you'd get this deadly virus.
So the first shot, we'll get as far as you coming in, but we won't do the pus blow or anything like that.
Okay.
It'll be a combination of mannequins and actual extras that we'll put in, set the camera, so if you get too close, you can start to tell that it's a mannequin. We'll put a body in there and open up the side of the bag so they can breathe, and they're full of pussy little pustules that are the actual contagion that's been implanted into them.
I just got splooged on, so it is pretty gross.
Do all of the victims have these boils? You're burning the bodies. Why?
And while Scully's knee-deep in pussy boils, Mulder is, as always, confronting his superiors.
Just try to keep your head outside of David's left arm. Okay. Because we collect it. And action.
Why are you telling me this, Agent Mulder?
Because I wanted you to hear it from me before you read it in the papers.
I'd seriously reconsider bringing this to the media if that's your intention.
If I was to think about what kind of show it is and what kind of core fan base it has, it doesn't surprise me that they would be fanatical in terms of Star Trek fans or Twin Peaks fans or something like that. So I think it's the kind of show that demands that kind of minute attention to detail and that kind of fanaticism. So that's not so surprising.
Not so surprising, really, when you talk to Filophiles. The show draws a large cult following, and they devour each new episode. And of course, everyone has a favourite X-Files moment, even if it's at David Duchovny's expense.
Gillian Anderson eating a grasshopper.
Between each other, at each other's throats.
Can you at least accept the possibility that during his near-death experience, some kind of psychic transference occurred?
Can't you accept the possibility that this isn't an X-File?
And although the technical aspects of filming the show often spoil the element of surprise and horror for Gillian, she has her favourites too.
That bank scene.
Ain't nothing around here! And with you, get out of the board now! Serious dead! Everyone, you over there, get on the floor!
He was screaming these profanities behind his mask, which of course was fine because you don't actually see his mouth, and they had to end up editing it, completely looping the whole scene. But because of that fact and these words that he was spewing out all over the place, it was just there's a scene where I've got this look of terror on my face before I get down, and it was quite real.
With this doll. Each time a new doll, anatomically intact. And each time she dismembers and disfigures it in exactly the same way.
I actually have one of those dolls. I raided the props department recently and pulled some stuff. And one of the things I pulled was one of those dolls with a dark circle around the eye and the arm missing. It's kind of creepy. the fish tank explodes at the end, and we had quite some fun shooting that. You know, when you do one take and the water, you know, the tank explodes and the water goes all over the living room, and you've got all the little diver and all of the crumbly rock stuff at the bottom, and the plants and the fish and fake fish on the living room floor, and then you have to clean it up and make it look like it never happened so you can do another take.
Still ahead on this special X-Files edition of Fox Entertainment News, we'll speak to Gillian about romance on the set, her marriage and young family, and how does she handle the international fame? Disguised?
No, not disguised. I mean, I wear my baseball cap, my big motorcycle boots, and my glasses, and I just think that nobody's going to recognize me. What did you see?
Think of him as an animal.
I know.
While the supernatural intricacies of each episode are hot topics of conversation among filophiles, nothing's more hotly discussed than the future of Mulder and Scully's relationship. And their recent appearance on the cover of Rolling Stone's done nothing to dampen debate over whether they should or shouldn't.
Being naked on the cover of Rolling Stone, although I didn't really consider it naked, but I didn't realize it until, I mean, I knew that I was naked, but I didn't really feel like it was naked until somebody pointed out to me that I was naked. I went, oh yeah, I guess I was naked. I was there, but for some reason, never mind. But I don't think that that's like a separate side of Scully.
And it's a side of Gillian fans are more than happy to see.
They were very, very well done, and I think because everybody wants to see the two characters, Mulder and Scully, in bed together and consummate their relationship, it's sort of taking the mickey out of that a little bit, because it's saying, well, you know, here we are.
During her trip to Australia, Gillian took part in a fashion shoot, and she enjoyed the chance to let her hair down. How did the fashion shoot go today? Because you did one here in Sydney.
Yeah, it went well. It went very well. I think we've got some good shots. Hope so.
Where will we see them? Will we see them on a Rolling Stone in future?
No, I don't think they'll be on a Rolling Stone. You just keep your eyes open.
And plenty of rewards for fans keeping their eyes peeled during Gillian's whirlwind visit. In a role reversal, she played the fan at the Rocky Horror Picture Show's 21st birthday bash.
How do you do it?
It's just a jump to the left.
It was the coming of age for the cult movie. But why such a fanatical following?
I don't know. I mean, it's the same question that everybody asks about the X-Files. So what makes something a cult success? And you know, usually when things are odd and off the wall and something that is kind of pushed into the underground, some people just kind of take it under their wings and turn it around.
Dana Scully's character has become a role model for thousands of young female fans around the world. But who is Gillian's Transylvanian role model?
I don't know. I guess it would be a mixture between Susan Sarandon's character and Tim Curry. A mix between a slut and a transvestite.
I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania.
As Special Agent Scully, Gillian unravels the mysteries of outer space and paranormal activity. But during her holidays here in Australia, she conquered a brand new frontier. So you've done a little bit of diving. I mean, we'll move on to some of the time.
A little bit
some of the stuff that, well, yeah. Did you do a bit while you were holidaying before you came to Australia?
No, I snorkeled on holiday,
so
and it went from snorkeling to diving with like 10-foot sharks. Hi, vey.
How hard was that?
It was. The actual being in the tank with sharks was not hard. Getting used to breathing underwater and not panicking, and just allowing yourself to relax and to allow your body to do what it needs to do was hard.
Juggling her eventful personal life and the demands of her profession hasn't been easy either.
In the first season, the whole season was about trying to determine who these characters were and learn, you know, in front of an audience of millions of people, and then and then I got pregnant.
How did the romance blossom on the set of The X-Files?
Obviously very quickly.
That's great.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah. It was great. It was just like any other, you know, just two people
Boy
connecting.
meets girl, hit it off.
Exactly.
Married on a beach.
More or less.
Married on a beach in Hawaii. I mean, there's those romantic things all around it.
Well, it was very stressful, actually, the actual marriage part of it, even though it was on a beach. It was the circumstances that led up to us standing on that particular beach at that particular time stemmed more from stress than doughy eyes and romance.
What was it? Was it, what, negotiating time off the show? I mean...
No. It was just going there knowing that we wanted to get married and not having a clue who was going to marry us when we got there, and trying to get a hold of a wedding certificate, and it actually ended up getting one at a fish market, because that's where the woman worked. And then finding the only priest that was available was a Buddhist priest, and so he took us for a drive in his minivan and then in a golf cart, and we landed on the beach, and it was rather comical, actually.
On top of landing the biggest role of her career and marrying her soulmate came her pregnancy. It was a testing time, but rather than firing Gillian, the producers chose to work around her growing stomach with a wardrobe of large coats, plenty of head and shoulder shots, and an abduction storyline.
Yeah, some days it was unbelievably hard, but at the same time, the crew was so wonderful. They really stood behind me and made it as easy as it possibly could be on me at the time.
And then I guess the fun really began when Piper was born.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
I'm still
working
going through
like
it.
16-hour days with a newborn? It was unreal. I think that period of time for the first month, 2 months, was the hardest time in my entire life.
As Piper nears her second birthday, parenthood is getting easier, but preserving her privacy is not. How does it feel being so recognisable? Do you wish you could just go to the supermarket, be able to buy stuff without people staring in the trolley?
All the time.
How do you balance that up then?
I don't go to the supermarket. No.
Some people would think that's great.
I go, I never have anybody shop for me. No, I go on weekdays, or when, you know, before rush hour or whatever.
Disguised?
Or, no, not disguised. I mean, I wear my baseball cap, my big, like, motorcycle boots and my glasses, and I just think that nobody's going to recognize me. And someone, like, tugs on my arm, and I'm like, what?
While Gillian candidly shares snippets of her personal life with us, when it comes to the question of Mulder and Scully's future, she prefers to trust no one. Naturally, fans have got their own definite ideas.
I think it would ruin the show or the series if they did end up in bed together, because that's one of the big attractions of the show, is the sexual tension between the two. They haven't really got enough time to, I think, to develop a personal life together. And it would take away from the show. People would no longer be interested. It's what makes the show interesting. We keep on coming back for more.
Everybody wants to see them get together.
I don't.
It would spoil it. It'd finish all the teas.
Yeah, perfect as it is. I mean, yeah, they got together, great. Look what happened to Northern Exposure when that happened. Look what happened to, you know, Moonlighting, all those kind of shows. And
they could only do it at the end of them.
Yeah, but it just wouldn't.
And Files, there's plenty more to come. Gillian signed up for a total of 7 years on this seriously addictive series.
So the truth is out there for a while yet, and you'll be able to get your X-Files fix right here on Fox.
Good night.
Good night.
The following program is classified M. It's recommended for a mature audience.
exciting event for me, and I hope it is for you. The X-Files reopened, and reopened not just by me, as much as I would be thrilled to do it, but yours truly with Gillian Anderson herself.
Hello.
Hello there. It's a little disconcerting when one has gotten to know you on the screen of various sizes, and then one sitting in front of you and saying, who am I talking to now? Is it Gillian Anderson or is it Dana Scully? That's Gillian Anderson. That's the person I want to meet. Do you love doing the X-Files? Let's get something basic. Do you love doing the X-Files?
I do. No, it's a huge pleasure. I think all of us who are involved feel very proud and rewarded for the hard work that we've done. And it's just a great show with great producers and a great crew, and it's just a very tight group of people.
I just wonder how you react then, or how you feel when people look at you as one person and there's still Gillian Anderson there. You're not Dana Scully.
Well, I'm fortunate in that Scully is such a positive character and has so many positive attributes that if they're going to assume that I am strong and intelligent and independent, and you know, I'm more than happy for people to think that too.
Of course. Was it there in the script in the first place, or do you think that you brought something to it that they didn't know about, that Chris Carter didn't know?
No, it was definitely there in the beginning. I think he has always had a very, very clear idea and formula for who these characters are. And it was just something that he made sure that we put all of our focus into, and really stayed true to who the character was that he had in his head. And they, both of them, I think, fostered all of those attributes from day one.
When you first heard about X-Files, was it, here's a project coming up you might be interested in, or were you handed a script and asked to consider it?
I was handed a script and asked if I was interested in going on an audition, that there was a character in the script who I would probably respond very strongly to, even though I wasn't used to auditioning for television. And so I got the script. I remember when I first read it, in which pajamas, on which bed. And so it's interesting that I remember that time so clearly, because it's having and will have such a profound influence on my life and in my life history.
At the time, you really don't know that. Suddenly you're reading a script, and years later, you're still reading those scripts. It's extraordinary.
I know, isn't it pathetic?
Now,
yeah.
How did they get to you? Because you had not that great body of work that had been seen at this stage. Had someone seen a test, or had seen you on stage, or whatever?
No, they were auditioning primarily stage actors from Los Angeles and bringing in actors from New York, and they heard that I had done a lot of theater, and they were looking for, or I guess my agents had heard that they were looking for a Jodie Foster type for this role, and so they called up and said, we have somebody. So.
You're not a Jodie Foster type. You're a Gillian Anderson type.
Oh, thank you.
Which is
although I don't mind that comparison whatsoever, I have to tell you. But thank you.
Have you got any yearnings to go back to the theatre?
I do, very much so, yeah. I'm a little nervous about it. I did have a couple of experiences with stage fright when I, in the last two productions that I did, and so it makes me a little nervous, but it's definitely something that I want to do. Whenever I go back to New York and I see theater, I just, you just get that ache.
That. Now, one sentence, what would you like to tell our viewers right now about the pilot of The X-Files?
Well, it was a very weird time. I mean, I had never done that much film. I'd never done television ever. And pilots are one of the most intense, psychotic environments that you can possibly put yourself in, ever.
And we watch you and say, "Oh, she's a natural." Thank you.
Well, no, but it was insane. I mean, a studio puts so much, or a network puts so much money into something, and you have no idea how it's going to turn out, or for how long it could run, or whether you're going to make back the money, and it's a huge risk. And so many pilots are made every year that aren't picked up. And you know, so the producers are there, and the studio heads fly up, and you've got 3 weeks to shoot an hour episode with such and such amount of money and in such amount of time, and it was horrendous, and the cold and the forced water on us in a particular scene, and us trying to figure out who these characters are at that time, and seeing the producers whispering behind the monitor, and I thought for a good deal of time that they were whispering about me, and at any time they were going to turn around and say, "You're fired. It's ruined because of you."
And all the time it's working beautifully, and it's working for us. Can I say this, Gillian, that it's good to forget about the rest of X-Files now and experience some of that excitement that you must have felt, and that tension for the pilot of the X-Files. Well, here we are again for the X-Files Reopened, and tonight with an episode that I think is one of the best I've seen, and I'd like to know what Gillian Anderson thinks about ice.
I think for all of us who were there and involved in that episode, it was really one of the most important to us and the closest to our hearts, because I think for the first time that was an episode where we all felt like things were coming together. We had had a few episodes before that, and we were trying to find our way blindly through doing the production, through getting used to the crew getting used to each other, and the whole production kind of falling together, and it really did during that episode. And we had a wonderful group of actors working with us, and because of the fact that it was basically shot in one set, tunnels upon tunnels upon tunnels, we were in this closed environment, and so that helped to promote the paranoid feeling, and it also helped us to get together and get closer to each other as a group. And it was so much fun, and that was also the first time that we worked with director David Nutter.
He's a very good director, isn't he?
Oh, he's terrific. He's a terrific director. I don't think he has. I think he's only done television, but I might be wrong.
But what he's done with the X-Files is quite brilliant sometimes, to do much with little when you know the budgets are limited, time is limited.
Yeah, no, he's wonderful. It was really a breath of fresh air for us at the beginning, because we were going through many different directors. Like each episode, we'd have a different director to try and find the ones that worked best for the show. And that was the first time when we all kind of really went, yes, you know, this is it. This is what it's supposed to feel like. This is somebody who really understands us and understands the show and understands how to make it look.
So Chris Carter sets the pace or the style, and this director, David Nutter, knows what to do with it to make it really work well.
The scripts are very specific in terms of the beats and the mood and exactly what needs to be put across onto camera, and a good director just knows how to interpret that and bring about results that follow the line, you know, follow what the writer is looking for.
As actors, do you and David feel that you can do something with the characters over and above what's in the words?
To a certain degree. It's taken me a long time to feel that. I think that I felt it's very easy reading Scully on the page to feel stiff with her, to feel bound in some way. And I think over the years I've gotten a bit looser and can move about in my space a bit more and do things like pick up a pencil or something like that. You know, just little things that because she's written so straightforward, and there's not much gesticulation that takes place.
Well, sometimes I feel with both of you when I'm watching the X-Files, there are those moments I think, oh, you feel they've said it themselves, they've made it up themselves. It seems to be the natural thing to say at the time. That must be a tribute to your writers and to your feeling, the grasp of the characters.
That's good. I mean, I think one of the harder things about the X-Files and the dialogue is that it has a tendency to be so technical. That's one of the fears, is that the episodes are only going to come across feeling stilted and incredibly technical. So that's good that you feel that.
Well, now, David Nutter, good director, but Glenn Morgan and James Wong, what terrific writers.
They really are. They were, I mean, Chris was a creator, and he was very, very good, and you know, the daddy is in terms of coming up with episodes. But Glenn and Jim it was just really wonderful to have them on the writing team, because they're just very, very good, and we were sorry to lose them when we did, but apparently they are joining us again for the 4th season.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that.
So we're very, very pleased.
Gillian, one final point about ice. It feels so cold. Watching that, don't you think? I think the cold comes out of the screen.
Well, it's hard seeing shows when you're so closely involved in the technical aspect of it. I don't really get scared very much in watching, and I also don't tend to see what other people might possibly see. So I'm glad you felt that.
I certainly did, and I'm sure you will too. If you are not terrified by ice, I think you'll be unnerved a little.
Before I was pulled.
You are watching Foxtel, the new force in Australian home entertainment. The following program is classified M. It's recommended for a mature audience.
Tonight, the 4th X-File reopened, and it's called Lazarus. Love the title.
Yeah, it is a good title, isn't it?
It is. Any recollections of Lazarus, or is it so long ago in time that other things have taken its place in your memory bank?
It's funny, I remember images from it. I remember how wonderful it was to work with the actor who played Jack Willis, and it was nice to have that bit of background between the two characters, to have some kind of history to play with, and also that bank scene. Can't remember the actor's name who was in the bank, who was you know, he comes in with a mask on and he starts shooting everybody. Well, his mouth was covered. And it was very, very loud when he was coming in, and he was screaming and screaming and screaming, and he had this big gun, and it was quite terrifying. It was very realistic. And I just remember he was screaming these profanities behind his mask, which of course was fine because you don't actually see his mouth, and they had to end up editing it, you know, completely looping the whole scene. But because of that fact and these words that he was like spewing out all over the place, it was just like, you know, there's a scene where I've got this look of terror on my face before I get down, and it was quite real.
How do you feel about doing all the physical things, the running, the jumping, and very little standing still, but you're all over the place, and it's pretty hectic?
I haven't actually been doing that much since I got pregnant, I think, but not by choice. In the beginning, I loved it. I really loved doing as many of my own stunts as possible, the sensible ones, tumbling and stuff. And I love the running when I feel in shape. Yes. I actually really enjoy that. When I don't feel in shape, I'm miserable.
Well, I'm never in shape, so I don't know about all of that. But I always enjoy the ones when you're in the forest. Is that the same forest nearly every time?
I remember, actually, it wasn't in this episode particularly. I think it was actually in one of the first episodes. But whenever they have us running through fields, there have been times running through fields, and even though I don't have heels on when I'm doing that because you can't see my feet, and I just put on some runners, some sneakers, you know, there are usually potholes everywhere when you're in fields, and it's the likelihood of one of us spraining our ankle is so great. I can't imagine what they'd actually do. You know, if we did that, it seems like such a risk for them to put us in that situation. But they've gotten pretty good in those instances of using our stunt doubles to do the running. So. That feels a lot better.
Well, it's probably just as well you don't have to do too much of that sort of thing, for heaven's sake, because they've got to keep you well because the public wants you every week, don't they? Right. Well, the public, do they nominate episodes that they love best of all?
Well, yes. I mean, there are different award shows. There are also votes, I think, on the internet, just amongst the surfers in terms of what their favorite episodes are.
Well, I know people who are getting you on the internet or information about you. How do you feel about all of that, with everybody knowing your business?
There are certain aspects of my business that I'd rather they didn't know about. And there's a certain point where, you know, especially now that the internet is alive and well, that I'd rather not have people know about. But there's not much one can do about it anymore.
Well, I suppose if you're asked questions you don't know answer, you just talk about Dana Scully.
Yeah. On the most part. There's certain things that, you know, if an answer is about my past that is very, very separate from Dana, that I couldn't answer with autopsy terms or something like that, but I could try.
Well, you're very fortunate to have so many interesting things to talk about in your careers, which is more than can be said for some of the actors and actresses who are working in the cinema these days. Well, it's time now for Lazarus, which, well, I like the story and I like the character to which Gillian referred so well. So let's have a look at Lazarus.
It's classified M. It's recommended for a mature audience.
Well, tonight, unfortunately, is the last of the X-Files reopened, but I'm really excited because not only do I have Gillian Anderson with me, but I'm also going to be talking to her about a fabulous episode called Born Again, which I always think of as the one with the dolls and the fish tank.
The dolls and the fish tank.
Tell us more.
I actually have one of those dolls. I raided the props department recently and pulled some stuff, and one of the things I pulled was one of those dolls with a dark circle around the eye and the arm missing. It's kind of creepy stuff.
It is. Now, if you'd got a few more of those dolls, you could make a fortune. I'd taken the lot.
Oh, you mean in terms of
next
selling them?
time.
That's right. I should have. I should have done that.
So where is the doll now that you've got?
In at my security deposit box.
I think you'd better leave it there for the moment because you'd have loads of people wanting it. And the one with the fish tank as well.
Yeah, there's that great scene at the end where the fish tank... Oh, I shouldn't actually...
No, that's all right.
Is it all right to talk
Everybody's
about
seen it
now?
at least twice.
Yeah, okay, well, it's where the fish tank explodes at the end, and we had quite some fun shooting that. You know, when you do one take and the water, you know, the tank explodes and the water goes all over the living room, and you've got all the little diver and all of the crumbly rock stuff at the bottom, and the plants and the fish and fake fish on the living room floor, and then you have to clean it up and make it look like it never happened so you can do another take. Yeah.
Did they have to do another take?
Oh, yeah.
So bring in another fish tank and here we go again.
Tank and clean up all the mess and dry it off so that it looks like it's not wet.
Gillian, I know you work sometimes up to 16 hours in a day, and you're supposed to do an episode per week, is that right?
An episode per 8 days.
So
but
at least you have 8 days.
we don't shoot on Saturdays and Sundays, so it's 5-day weeks.
Well, it really puts a lot of pressure on you and those who work with you, doesn't it, to get through that?
Oh, absolutely. And you know, the crew, in general, works longer hours than David and I do, because they have to get there earlier and they set up. And they also often stay longer when our scenes are done, or when it's pouring down with rain. They're out in the rain. We've got a nice comfy little trailer to go back to, and they have to stay out in the miserable weather and stuff. So they have it quite a bit harder than we do.
Oh, I'm starting to feel for them. And you're sitting there in comfort, chatting and playing chess perhaps, and having a hot cup of tea.
Toddy.
Yes. But how do you cope with some of these episodes that look as if they would take an enormous amount of time, like Tombs, for example, the escalators and all of that business? How do you do it?
Well, I think that's what's been so amazing about the show, and the ability of the crew and the producers and the writers to put stuff together that is so enormous and actually be able to pull it off. Because, you know, a lot of people have talked about the fact that each episode looks like a mini feature, and it does, you know, and the simple fact that it took us 3 weeks to just shoot the pilot, which was the same amount of time, and we were, you know, you know, really running into schedule problems and all that kind of stuff. And now we've squashed it down to 8 days of main unit shooting. There's a few days after that where we do all of the inserts of like hands picking up pieces of paper and stuff like that, and then post-production. But we've really, it's a huge battle on a weekly basis for the producers and the assistant directors to try and put together schedules that can make the show work in such a short amount of time.
Of course, you can't shoot in sequence then, can you? You've just got to...
No. We go all over the place.
Well, possibly sometimes, Gillian, if I were in the X-Files, which I never will be, but if I were, I wouldn't know what the story was about. Sometimes I wouldn't know where I was at, except I had to say this and not bump into the furniture.
Yeah, that was very hard at the beginning for me in the first few episodes, primarily to get used to shooting out of sequence, because, you know, experience being theater, you do stuff in sequence, and you get the feel for that, and to remember where I've been and where I'm going, and be able to play a particular scene, knowing that you have just experienced a certain thing, or what information do I know in this scene that I didn't know in the scene before. It gets very complicated.
Well, you're coping magnificently, and I guess the audiences are, and we all love the X-Files. I don't know anyone who isn't a fan.
Thank you.
And who isn't a fan of you. So you've got a lot of friends in Australia. Thank you, Gillian, for being with me. Well, there you are. Fascinating talking with Gillian Anderson. And this is now our last X-File to be reopened this week, and it's Born Again.
Television's most recognisable faces. So, much like the extraterrestrials he often pursues on The X-Files, David's now a much sought-after entity himself in Hollywood, particularly on the set of his new movie, Playing God.
As Federal Agent Fox Mulder on the hit series The X-Files, David enlightens TV audiences each week with the tales of the supernatural. But these days, he's taking a break from alien busting to portray a down-on-his-luck doctor in the feature film Playing God.
You got that wire hanger? All right, run the wire hanger through the plastic tube and then run some drum through it. Who's got the knife? I didn't know how those guys on ER in Chicago Health did it. Now I know it's easy. Because I've done it a few times. I mean, let's see them find some aliens. I know that I can cut people open now. Let's see if they can find aliens.
Playing God also gives David an opportunity to hone his acting skills with more established film performers, like Timothy Hutton.
I'm at the top of my game right now. If I'm not really tired by the schedule, I'm just, you know, I'm sharp. So it's really fun to do another role, to take the sharpness that I got from working every day on the TV show and apply it to another role.
Right, that camera should be following David. That's it.
If you start to feel that you're not being creative, that can lead to some weird kind of depression, and then you just get into this cycle where you just start to complain about your job, and then everybody hates you.
At present, that seems unlikely. The X-Files has launched David's popularity sky high, prompting People magazine to name him one of this year's best-looking Earthlings.
I get to do what I want to do now, which is really, really wonderful. So if it means, if I have to suffer the indignity of being one of the 50 most beautiful people in order to do the movie I want to do, then that's fine, you know?
Playing God is scheduled for release sometime next year.
Well, the David Duchovny Estrogen Brigade went wild over the Red Speedo X-Files scene, and they can expect more of the same in Playing God, when he apparently fronts up in a pair of black togs. Well, now, before we go tonight, let's take a look at the top stories making news this week. Ministers of the Olympic Games are demanding a percentage...
Who's got it? Welcome back to Midday, our special ski edition, snow edition today. When men lust, they really do, they just lust after. Women admire her. She has, in fact, become one of those rare beings, an intelligent sex symbol, thanks to Dana Scully in The X-Files.
Now that's 5 murders every 30 years. That makes 2 more to go this year.
You're saying these are copycats?
What did we learn our first day at the academy, Scully? Each fingerprint is unique. These are a perfect match.
Are you suggesting that I go before the violent crime section and present a profile declaring that these murders are done by aliens?
No, of course not. I find no evidence of alien involvement.
Well, what then? That this is the work of a 100-year-old serial killer who's capable of overpowering a healthy 6'2" businessman?
And he should stick out in a crowd with 10-inch fingers.
Ah, there you go. Well, the star of the and that must be her right now. Star of television's X-Files, the very extraordinary Gillian Anderson. goes anywhere she sort of really feels like. Now, Gillian Anderson, a la Dana Scully, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I know this probably doesn't look normal and we look a bit out there, but it's not X-Files. This is midday.
Okay, well, I was actually amazed by all the snow because it seems so warm here to me. And to see you pretending that it's Christmas is very humorous.
Well, we just like to do silly things, don't we, folks? Yeah. We do. And this is about as close to winter as we really do get. Obviously, Dana Scully, you've become hugely popular with the X-Files. Does Gillian Anderson actually believe in the paranormal?
I believe in certain aspects of the paranormal, more on the spiritual side than the paranormal side. I believe in ESP and psychokinesis and stuff like that people actually have the ability to generate enough energy in themselves to move objects and stuff. I'm fascinated by that stuff. There are certain areas that I completely tune off on, that we reach in the show, you know, stuff that I just don't think is possible in any way, shape, or form.
Has anything wonderful, oh, and of course this is our resident Yeti. Mr. Yeti, just turn to the camera there, so yes, that's our Yeti, and or known as Ewan to the occasionally. Thank you. That's what we wanted, because these are the new the X-Files video, because you're out here for those companies, and also they're on Foxtel at the moment. But I mean, has anything really weird and wonderful ever happened to you? Slightly weird?
Weird and wonderful?
Well, weird. Let's just start with weird. I know wonderful things have happened, but what's weird?
Nothing really weird has ever happened to me. I wish that they had, so that I could talk about them on
But you do believe in ESP?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Have you had premonitions?
I haven't had premonitions. Well, once in a while in my life, I've had a dream, and and then it's come true, but nothing so substantial that I could tell you about it right now. Mostly little coincidences in life that happen, you know, where you think, oh, I was just thinking about that person, and you run into them, you know, they're just mild, boring stuff.
Dana, with your life in the last couple of years, it's been...
You can call me Gillian.
Awesome. Dana Scully. I'm talking, I mean, because I am so addicted to the X-Files. Gillian, in the last couple of years, 93 is when the X-Files started. You've had this fairy tale rise. You were virtually unemployed and went from waiting tables into a huge television show, your own show. Did you realise how important it was when you started then?
No, I don't think that I did. I think that if I had realized it, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. You know, I think that's one thing is that we're shooting in Vancouver, and so it's not in Los Angeles. It doesn't have the same degree of hype all the time that it would if we were shooting down there. So we're separated enough that it was a gradual rise for us, and also because it was a gradual rise for the show, period. You know, it was considered purely a cult success with very few viewers at the beginning, and then it built up and built up to a mainstream show. But so we all had a very kind of comfortable ride forwards and upwards. It wasn't as crazy as it could have been.
And after reading some research, Gillian, I understand that you're a far more down-to-earth person, because I get the impression that you're far more interested in your life rather than a movie star television life. For instance, just literally in the first year, you got married. In fact, you met your husband on the set.
I did.
How did that happen?
Well, he was working on the show, and I was working on the show, and I saw him walking around one day, and I asked somebody who he was and what he was about, and somehow we ended up going to dinner and getting married and having a baby.
And it was pretty quick too. What did he do on the show?
He was one of the art directors on the show. And then shortly after we got married, he quit. He felt like it was a conflict of interest for us both to be working on the same show. And so he moved on and has been designing films and MOWs. And right now he's working for a company called Mainframe Entertainment, which does a show called Reboot in the States, which is a completely computer-animated children's show. And so he's been designing shows for them.
And in the very first year of X-Files, you fell pregnant. And now there's a lot of actors...
Fell pregnant.
Well,
an interesting term.
You became
I was
pregnant.
struck pregnant.
Well, it sort of doesn't really hit you, does it? Oh, maybe sometimes. But I mean, that's an interesting move because your life was far more important than your career. Because were you prepared to give up the television show if the producers had said, nope, we don't want a pregnant Dana Scully on it?
Yeah, I was. When I discovered that I had fallen pregnant, I really had to make the decision for myself whether it was something that I wanted, and I was determined to make it work because I couldn't see not going through with it for myself. And so I had to make that decision for myself and trust that whatever the producers decided was how it was going to be, and that was going to be okay.
In fact, they relished the thought almost, didn't they?
Well, no. I don't think they relished the thought at all.
But they worked around you.
They did. They tried very, very hard to make it work. And they, especially the crew at that time, the crew was incredibly supportive. You know, I'd be standing up for a shot and then they'd run over an apple box, which is a box that I'm normally standing on because of my height. But they'd run one over to me for me to sit on to rest my feet and stuff, and they were just wonderful. And they brought in a cot, and so in between scenes I'd sleep on the cot. And
who was the first person you told besides your husband on the show?
My mom. But the first person on the show was David that I told.
And of course, you know, women around the world absolutely love and adore David Duchovny. How well do you two get along? Clearly it must be a fairly warm relationship if he was one of the first people you confided in.
Well, I confided in him first, mostly. I mean, we are close, but I confided in him mostly because I knew that I had to go to the producers, and that was a terrifying concept to me. And so I wanted to experience somebody else's reaction who was close to the show. And his was, I mean, it was like his knees were knocked out in front of him. We just kind of had to steady himself for a second. But we are close. We know each other very well now because of the intensity of the work and the fact that we work together, you know, 14 hours a day, almost every single day. And so we're close in that respect. We don't hang out together on weekends. I spend time with my family, and he does what he does. But
in terms of the show, you have done some weird and wonderful things. You ate a live cricket once, is that true?
I have to clarify that. I didn't swallow it.
But you actually
I did put it in my mouth. Well, see, you have to imagine this situation. See if this is going to make it any better. They had spent like $1,400 to make these chocolate crickets for me, which were about that big, and the real crickets were about that big. And so we're on the set, and there's this guy called the Conundrum, who is not only has puzzle pieces tattooed over his entire body, but he's chomping on crickets. He pours like a huge jar full of crickets into his mouth. They're crawling up his head and down his back, and you know, and he offers me one, and like I'm not going to take one out and put it in my mouth when he's eating hundreds of them in front of me. So it was kind of a self-imposed challenge. But as soon as I turned my back from camera, I spit it out.
Well, this is our little ski show here today, Gillian. But you know who we have later? We've got Stephen Lee, who is an Australian champion, world champion, a legend in this country. And we have got a couple of ski machines. Do you ski?
I have.
You have skied?
I've never skied in heels, though, I might add.
Oh, well, we should take the heels off. We could find some snowshoes for you. Would you stay and have a bit of fun on the ski machine? You know, there's like time zone races.
I might. I'm not exactly sure how much time we have. So if I don't come back, it's because I haven't been able to stay.
Oh,
but we might be able to.
We can make time, can't we? Yeah. Oh, we'll
apparently,
have these poor people over here. But it's terrific to have you on the program because I'm a huge fan. I know most of Australia is. And see the kids over here. We've got a bunch of kids sitting in front of our Chilblain Orchestra. They have been literally hanging off the fences of our studio today. We couldn't get enough seats for everybody to sit in to see you. I actually thought it was me for a minute, and then I was really depressed. have to find out it was for you. But enjoy the rest of your stay in Australia, and with a bit of luck you can stay and have some fun on the machine with us. But don't forget you can see X-Files on Foxtel and or watch your own copies. These are the ones that our little Yeti brought in. And there's a special X-Files collection edition. That's it there. It's available now. Please thank our hero, Gillian Anderson. We meet climbers who refuse to come in from the cold. You stay right where you are.
Shopping centre today and was given an incredible welcome. 5,000 people packed the shopping mall to wait for Gillian Anderson, star of the popular and scary Network 10 series about paranormal and alien activities. Her appearance provoked a reaction usually reserved for rock stars. Melbourne fans of X-Files get their chance tomorrow when Gillian Anderson appears at the Southland Shopping Centre.
Dozens of teenagers have been crushed and injured during a live appearance by X-Files star Gillian Anderson at Southland Shopping Centre. The crowd was so big, her appearance was cut short to avoid more fans being hurt.
What should have been a smooth public relations exercise quickly became a frightening crush. Teenagers crammed at the front of the stage had to be pulled to safety as the crowd of over 10,000 surged forward. Gillian Anderson became so concerned, she pleaded with the crowd.
I really want to stay and sign some more autographs, but people are getting injured and I'm dead serious.
But it had little effect. Many teenagers were still trapped in the crush.
Security wouldn't help us, and everyone was just like going 1, 2, 3 security, and no one would come down and help. Screaming for the security, and nobody came. And I was screaming as well, and we were all.
Extra police were called while ambulance officers attended to people on stage. Most suffered heat exhaustion, but no one was seriously injured. Centre management at Southland defended their crowd control tactics, but were forced to cut her appearance short.
We took Gillian out a little bit earlier so that we didn't have any nasty incidents.
It was the X-Files star's final appearance in Australia, one she's sure not to forget.
Thank you. It's been great being here. Goodbye, Australia.
Raquel Stevens, 10 News.
And been hurt as thousands jammed Southland Shopping Centre for a glimpse of Hollywood cult figure Gillian Anderson. The X-Files star was forced to appeal for calm, with dozens of children hurt in the crush. Emma Power was there.
Some had camped since 4 this morning for a glimpse of the star, not disappointed when their hero finally showed. Elation quickly turned to agony. Ambulance officers called in as screaming teenagers were crushed, fainting and hyperventilating. It became all too much. Extra police and the star appealed for calm. Organisers cancelled the appearance 15 minutes early.
So we're at the front, it was so hot, people just like dehydrated and squashed and everything.
I started crying because I couldn't move and I couldn't breathe and I just sort of blacked out.
We still didn't get to see her.
Ms. Anderson later admitted she'd feared for fans, overwhelmed by the attention.
I was surprised. No, I think the security tried as hard as they could to keep it under control.
Despite the debacle, centre management says there's nothing else it could have done to prevent the crush.
We've had plenty of extra guards in the centre to make sure that their behaviour's been monitored and when necessary controlled.
One Good Samaritan lost $1,000 worth of parcels when he put them down to help trampled children.
You try and do the right thing and you still lose out.
Emma Power, 7 Nightly News.
Sydney today with thousands of fans trying for a glimpse of actress Gillian Anderson, who plays Agent Scully. A About 8,000 people packed a shopping centre, but it was a far cry from yesterday's crush in Melbourne. Although the crowd was very noisy and excited, the only problem was the heat, but no one needed treatment.
American television star Gillian Anderson has again created havoc, this time in a Sydney shopping centre. Anderson, who plays Dana Scully in the US series The X-Files, sent thousands of fans into a frenzy when she made her final Australian appearance. Some of them began queuing as early as 2:30 this morning for a glimpse of the star. She heads back to the US now, leaving behind such paranormal scenes of adulation for a more peaceful life of chasing aliens and other unexplained phenomena.
On tonight's show, we've got brain-eating aliens, CIA conspiracy, the mystery of the incredible talking vegetable. Look, I'm sorry, I knew this would happen. I know it's not far into the year and I knew this would happen.
Well, I've
got to go. Sorry, bit of a mix-up.
Oh dear. What next? Unbelievable.
Oh dear, jeez. Why me on the opening of the show? Oh dear. Oh, hang on. Oh, Gillian Anderson, Scully.
Daryl Summers?
Yes, well, that explains it, of course. See, this is your files.
And this must be yours. That's a bit neat. I thought a head on a stick and a 6-foot duck was a bit extreme even for our show.
Love to chat, but the show's off. Gotta go.
Daryl?
Yes?
Trust no one.
Right, good advice.
Daryl?
Yes?
Your shoe's untied.
No, it's not.
Trust no one.
UFOs, which is no doubt one of the reasons they watch The X-Files, which tells them they're right. This is the programme for the paranoid. The X-Files, starring the cool agent Dana Scully, who keeps the fans guessing, of course, with her maybe not, relationship with her spooky partner, Mulder. I mean, he's an odd boy. He's weird too, isn't he? In real life, she's Gillian Anderson, former teenage punk, former stage actor, and now the first sex symbol, we could say, of the internet. Her career has been helped recently, it has to be said, by some raunchy pictures in lingerie and catsuits. And she appeared topless on the cover of the Rolling Stone magazine with her co-star David Duchovny, with whom one magazine declared recently she'd had a hot, if brief, affair. Gillian Anderson was in Sydney promoting the new X-Files videos well, the word was in Sydney. Gillian Anderson had narrowly missed being a passenger on that crashed Air Garuda flight in Japan.
No, that is completely not true. That was a fabrication to, for whatever reason, I don't know. I was never booked on that flight. I was never supposed to come to Bali from Japan. I was going a week later than that flight from Japan to Hong Kong. I was never booked on that flight. It's complete misinformation. I don't know where they got it from, and hopefully I'll never hear about it again.
Fine. Well, so much for that bit of research, so much for that bit of information. I'll scratch that off completely.
Good.
Let's talk about the X-Files. How important to the success of the show do you think is that relationship between Scully and Mulder? And deconstruct that relationship if you would.
Well, I think that a lot of people are intrigued by their intelligence and the intimacy and the platonic nature of the relationship. They seem to be sexually attracted to each other, but they don't do anything about it, and I think that that's incredibly intriguing to the audience.
Do you think
the question?
No, that's a very good answer. That's perfect. That's the answer I expected, and it was a very good answer. Do you think, in fact, that a lot of people continue to watch, though, in the hope that they do get it on?
Well, I think that what people are intrigued by is the fact that we don't jump in the sack together. I think that once we did, the audience would start to fade away a little bit, and I'm not sure if they quite realize that. I think that they see the tension increasing all the time, and they think that the next step is, of course, to consummate the relationship in a sexual way, and I think that they're mistaken.
Yes, I see one writer about the program has described the relationship as celibate sexual heat. Do you agree with that?
Oh, that's good.
It's not bad,
I like
is it?
that. That's not bad at all.
The show's producer, Chris Carter, he's adamant there should be no sexual engagement between Scully and Mulder. So you agree with that?
Yes, I do. I think that that the show is not about that. It's about the cases that we're investigating, and if we were to enter that element into it, that it would completely change
the show. We'd have to address the issue of us being lovers, and that would get in the way of dealing with the paranormal issues at hand.
Paranormal and paranoid, too. I mean, does the show pander to the paranoid, do you think?
I think that the show caters to the paranoid in our world, definitely. I think that there are certain episodes that deal with paranoia or the paranoid more readily than others, but it's definitely a state of mind that we deal with and promote on a regular basis.
We've talked about the relationship between Scully and Mulder. How would you describe, if I may ask you, if I may make so bold as to ask you, how would you describe the relationship between Anderson and Duchovny?
We're friends, we're working partners, we work well together in that environment. We're not socially active together, but we care a lot about each other, and we do the work.
In a magazine, though, I read that you once had a very strong, very passionate relationship for a while, the both of you.
I just read that, or I just heard about that today myself, and that is not true. I just heard about it for the first time today, and I don't think it's even in the States. I think it's something that is at this moment purely an Australian rumor.
But it seemed a very well-informed article, and indeed you were having a strong and passionate relationship, but you both worried the producers would find out. So this is not true.
No, it's not true.
At all.
It's the same thing as a plane crash. Somebody has started a rumor, and it's gotten out of control.
At least they're not suggesting you were involved together on the plane which crashed.
That is absolutely for certain.
Who do you get?
I'd hate to be having sex while going down in a plane crash. That just, you know, it wouldn't do it for me.
No, but it's one way of taking your mind off the imminent disaster, I suppose.
I guess it would, wouldn't it?
How long are you committed to doing Dana Scully for? How long are you committed to the X-Files for?
Well, by contract, I'm committed to 7 years, and we've done 3. So by contract, I've got 4 more years.
Is it going to remain interesting for 4 more years?
I sure hope so, and I also hope that they have the foresight to cancel it when it starts getting boring.
Is there a danger, though, with such a long association with the show that you'll be known forever as Dana Scully?
I think that's a general fear. It seems to be amongst everybody else but me. The scripts that I've been looking at and handed have involved characters very, very different from Scully, and a wide range of them, so I don't foresee that problem happening anytime soon, and hopefully it won't. I'm being told that we're wrapping up here. I'm being given the signal that we are to end.
It is a tiresome signal often given in the world of television, as you know, and I thank you very much indeed for your time.
You. Okay, thank you.
Isn't she wonderful? Gillian Anderson, Dana Scully. Those were our people.